faithfully sharing value and interpreting great books from around the world. And hi, this is Sally's Book Talk. Today, we're diving into the novel The Autumn of the Patriarch by the renowned Colombian author Gabriel García Márquez. Márquez was born in 1927. In 1967, he gained global fame with his novel 100 Years of Solitude. 100 Years of Solitude is also Márquez's masterpiece of magical realism. With bizarre and surreal strokes, he depicts the rise and fall of a family across generations in Latin America. Right after 100 Years of Solitude was published, it sold 1 million copies in Colombia alone. Keep in mind, Colombia's population is only 10 million, and today's book, The Autumn of the Patriarch, is arguably the pinnacle of Márquez's career. He condensed the essence of works like 100 Years of Solitude and Love in the Time of Cholera into The Autumn of the Patriarch, earning it the title of the greatest novel in any language over the past 50 years. In this novel, Márquez shifts from family sagas to explore another facet of Latin America, dictatorship. Since the late 19th century, Latin American politics has seen a tradition of military coups leading to dictatorships. So, in his youth, Márquez witnessed dictators falling in countries like Colombia and Venezuela. Meanwhile, Spain, with its close ties to Latin America, endured nearly 40 years of dictatorship under General Franco. Franco died in 1975, and that same year, Márquez published this novel centered on a dictator, The Autumn of the Patriarch. This novel isn't told chronologically. Instead, it uses stream of consciousness where events tied to the protagonist pop up like random thoughts, suddenly appearing, vanishing fast, then resurfacing elsewhere. Like a kaleidoscope, Márquez crafts a dizzying magical atmosphere this way. The core event in the novel is the dictator's death. Márquez once said that when he started writing The Autumn of the Patriarch, he had only this death scene in mind. So he began with that scene and brought it back repeatedly later. It will start telling the autumn of the patriarch from this scene, like scripting a film with Márquez painting it in vivid detail. The presidential palace is a true palace with a tall holy water font inside that's been used for 5 generations for baptisms, showing the dictator's rule has lasted ages. Inside, there are many vehicles, each from a different historical era, all still in perfect condition. The palace terrace has roses and pansies planted, stairs covered with expensive carpets, armchairs and silk covers, velvet curtains on windows, domino tables and a billiard table by the windows. But amidst all this luxury, what's active are animals. Many cows are leisurely wandering, nibbling curtains, dirtying silk chair covers, stepping on broken furniture and portraits of marshals, with tattered carpets, defecating everywhere in dining and music halls, strutting about. Some cows have fallen and died, swarms of moths flying around, vultures flying in through windows, cruelly pecking at cow intestines and rotting flesh. These cows were all raised by the palace's owner. So where is this owner? He's lying down, wearing a military uniform without rank insignia and leather boots, with a golden spur shining on his left boot. This is his most standard and formal attire. The author writes that he's older than anyone else in the world, lying face down. Every night of his long life, he slept this way, but now his body reeks and his face is pecked to pieces by vultures. But the people surrounding the corpse never say he's dead. Instead, they repeatedly examine details, looking at his face, rashes under arms and in groin, his well-kept hands and ring. That ring is a royal seal symbolizing a ruler's power. Those people dare not easily believe he's dead because he was once thought dead but later came back to life. In fact, people believe he can't die or dare not think he might die, even though no human voices have been heard from his palace for years, and few question if the president is dead. In the novel, Márquez repeatedly brings up the president's death image, his military uniform, leather boots, golden spur on boot, his lifelong signature attire. This writing is to emphasize how incredibly unusual this event is. People are, utterly shocked by the president's death, forcing them to repeatedly check and confirm, needing time to accept and digest the fact that he's dead. How did the president make everyone believe he was immortal? This starts from his rise to power. Originally a warlord, he rose through years of civil war and seized the presidency with British naval support. Soon after, the U.S. Marine Corps occupied the country. He obediently became a puppet, letting Americans plunder resources everywhere, even seizing territorial waters in exchange for keeping his presidency. Until the plague broke out domestically, the Americans, fearing infection, fled back home. Greedily, they dismantled officers' standalone villas, packed the wood into containers, dug up the sky blue artificial turf, and rolled it up like a carpet to take away. Before leaving, they awarded the president a medal symbolizing friendship between the two nations. Then they shouted loudly, "We're leaving him alone in this filthy brothel. Let's see how he copes without us." Through these experiences, the president realized he was a manipulated pawn. Britain and the U.S. could put him in power and easily remove him. On the other hand, he feared other warlords or powerful figures might imitate his example, using foreign forces to overthrow him. And more importantly, the president learned that ruthlessness and greed are the highest qualities a ruler needs. Therefore, since seizing power, he outwardly submits to Britain and the U.S., while domestically seizing every chance to crush potential threats to his authority. And killing, the simplest, crudest method, is also the most effective for him. The president has expertise in killing. He first targeted his old comrades who fought alongside him, believing they posed the most direct threat to his power. However, the president always assigned subordinates to carry it out and masked the killings with lies. For instance, one day, the president received a report that a general was bitten by a cat, leading to rabies, and his bodyguards had no choice but to kill him. Another general was crossing a river on horseback when, for no apparent reason, the horse suddenly died, causing the general to fall in and drown instantly. There was also a general rumored to have unconventional sexual orientation, who one day suddenly detonated a bomb on himself. All these generals were old comrades. The president held grand funerals for each, claiming they died on duty and awarding them national honors. Finally, only 6 generals remained. The president summoned them all to the palace. He drank with them, ate turkey and roast suckling pig, and sang old songs together. Knowing the president's intent, the generals came prepared, drinking only their own liquor or abstaining, yet still ended up tearfully drunk. And late at night, the president's guards executed them all, publicly claiming they went mad and were killed by their own bodyguards. Only one general who didn't drink escaped, but he was hunted until, tormented by gout, he begged the president for death. Only then was he spared. After eliminating old comrades, he appointed new generals, but he distrusted them more. They'd helped purge rivals, acted as enforcers, or procured women, knowing too many dark secrets, so he killed them even more ruthlessly. His suspicion expanded. He deliberately sabotaged generals commanding troops abroad. For example, he secretly had sand mixed into army gunpowder, which predictably sparked local rebellions. This confirmed their unreliability to him. He stormed into barracks to assert dominance. Impulsive officers and soldiers meekly surrendered their weapons. Later, 1,500 soldiers near the palace rebelled. His staff panicked, but the president stayed calm. They sent a large barrel of milk to the barracks. Soldiers, suspicious but tempted to test it for poison. When they opened it, a hidden bomb exploded. The entire barracks blew sky high. The president's slightest suspicion led to slaughter, and slaughter bred more slaughter. He once killed every minister in the state council, except the defense minister, his closest friend, with whom he often played dominoes. But later, at an annual celebration, he had several dishes served before many guests. These dishes were made from the dismembered corpse of a person. That person was the defense minister. The president publicly declared him a traitor, saying he had to make an example. Yet afterward, he still needed to kill more to quell his inner terror. The president feared losing power. Using power meant death. And in Latin American warlord politics, coups and assassinations were routine. So the president always struck first, killing rebels or suspected rebels, realizing his survival depended on others dying before him. To prolong his life and create an immortal myth, he even hired a double named Patricio. He resembled the president. Initially, the president's men reported, "Someone's impersonating you. Execute him." But after arrest and interrogation, the president found Patricio useful as a decoy to take assassination attempts. Once hired, Patricio mimicked the president's traits, like scraping his feet loudly while walking. He hammered his feet with a wooden mallet to flatten them like the president's. He ate the president's favorite honey, used women sent by him, and even developed the president's tinnitus and hernia. Moreover, Patricio learned to speak with the president's sarcastic tone, giving irrelevant answers, a flawless imitation. Eventually, he replaced the president at public events, basking in crowds' cheers without detection. Of course, he survived 6 assassination attempts. But during the 7th attempt, this presidential double finally failed to dodge. He was hit by a poison dart. Once news spread, streets filled with leaflets and shouts of "Down with oppression. Execute the tyrant." These people urged patriots to unite against the traitorous warlord president. Even palace guards gathered in corridors, reading leaflets aloud as the president watched from shadows. As Patricio lay dying, the president cared for him alone, saying, "Bear with it a little. Generals of our homeland must die like real men, sparing no sacrifice." But this double disgracefully soiled himself and then breathed his last. The president arranged a state funeral, then hid in shadows, spying on attendees' reactions. Seeing weepers, flower bearers, and bowers satisfied him deeply. But suddenly, rebels stormed in, dragged the corpse downstairs by its feet, ransacked the palace, then burned presidential portraits in the square. Meanwhile, formerly obedient ministers, liberals, conservatives, generals, archbishops, ambassadors met to divide spoils in the conference hall. Suddenly, the president appeared, scattering them. Only guards knew the truth. His true henchmen. They slaughtered celebrators, especially targeting corpse desecrators, executing them by flaying alive. News of the president's resurrection spread, fueling rumors of invincibility and immortality. With more people convincing themselves they believed him divine, destined to rule for life, even forgotten by death. The elderly passed this legend to youth, who passed it to descendants. Indeed, the president lived past 100, then even past 200 years. With the mortal fame, he spread terror everywhere. The president loved cockfights, demanding only victories, never defeats. On the sole occasion his rooster won, it did triumph. The rooster's owner gifted it to the president, then committed suicide. He knew beating the president meant blocking his path to life. A price must be paid. The president's survival required everyone's voluntary protection. Any challenge threatened his power and life. Eventually, things descended into absurdity. The president randomly asked a passerby in the city, "What time is it now?" The passerby immediately replied, "Whatever time you say it is, sir. You decide." The president's lust for power and fear of death had reached their extreme. And Marquez employs extreme exaggeration, using countless absurd episodes to depict the dictator's horror. But the most absurd and terrifying thing in the book is the president's ruthless killing of children. As mentioned before, the president always wins at cockfights. He also loves playing dominoes and is always the victor. He knows these victories are fake, but still needs them for pleasure. Later, the president ordered a national lottery where each public draw features 3 children under 7. They draw rigged balls that always match the president's number. New children are used each time, yet he never loses the prize. But the president soon realized the children might leak the secret. To eliminate future trouble, he imprisoned the children. As more children filled prisons, their parents rebelled, only to be jailed too. Eventually, no suitable child could be found nationwide for the lottery. Despite ironclad facts, the president issued an official statement calling all talk of child detention shameless lies. Some ill-intentioned people spread rumors and invited international observers. They wined and dined observers, showed them an empty prison, who then reported the nation was peaceful. But where were the children? Turns out, troops moved children to sealed trucks, transported them overnight to remote areas, then to rainforests and plateaus. Planes airdropped ice cream, sweets, and toys to keep children content and deceive outsiders. Finally, the president ordered barges to take children to sea and sink them with dynamite. Hearing this cruel order, his closest aides were stunned, but the president remained expressionless. How does the president treat his own descendants when he disposes of others' children like trash? The book says he had countless lovers and fathered over 5,000 children, yet none inherited his surname except a son born to a nun. At birth, the president granted this infant the title of general and appointed him military district commander. This ludicrous decision was wildly celebrated nationwide, since no one dared oppose the president's will. But when the nun grew ambitious, thinking she'd become queen, the president had both her and the infant general assassinated. The president focused obsessively on longevity, creating personal myths to achieve it. For example, he mythologized his birth, writing in textbooks nationwide that his mother conceived him in a dream and gave birth to him. Like the Virgin Mary's immaculate conception of Jesus, his apolitical mother often embarrassed him with blunt truths. For instance, she always called her son pitiful, burdened with governance and constant assassination threats. She told others, "My son's presidency is nominal. He owns nothing, not even a grave." Before diplomats, she once said, "Had I known he'd be president, I'd have taught him to read." Indeed, illiterate. After her death, this longtime ruler froze her body for public viewing. He summoned a Vatican envoy to canonize her, but when refused, arrested him, humiliating the envoy and declaring war on Vatican, all to craft his immortal legend that he remained death's most terrified victim. At over 100 years old, he visited a fortune teller who predicted, "You'll live to 125. Hearing this, he strangled her personally, to ensure no second person knew his death's timing or place. Marquez notes, sardonically, this fortune teller was the only life he ever killed with his own hands. The novel doesn't specify when the president came to power, but the main plot unfolds after he turns 107 until his death at 232. This exaggerated lifespan highlights the dictator's seemingly endless reign. Generation after generation in this country are ruled by a man aged beyond recognition. He's so frail that a sneeze could knock him out, suffers incontinence, and each night wonders if he'll wake. Yet, people still obey his commands, even deluding themselves by praising his non-existent achievements. To Marquez, this represents dictatorship's most absurd normalcy. The patriarch in the title, the Autumn of the Patriarch, is the dictator who turned the nation into his personal fiefdom. Regardless of age or senility, all must obey this family patriarch. But this can't last forever. The clearer he sees it, the more panicked he becomes. He said, "Those who overthrow others will themselves be overthrown." Once power crumbles, it's irrecoverable. So he got a double against assassination, a fear that twisted him. The novel describes how he and his double wander dazedly through empty palace halls, stepping only on carpets to muffle betraying footsteps. Sometimes they stand for days, counting swifts in rainy skies, trying to dispel fear and loneliness. Though he beds women at will, melancholy always returns after pleasure. So he hides alone, singing, "Oh, January moon, see how my sorrow rises at your window." He once tried confiding in his mother, sighing, "Mother, the motherland is such a beautiful lie." But she rarely responded, and he hardly expected her to. Initially, his debauchery and cruelty were undeniably repulsive, but when Marquez reveals his fear-driven loneliness, a profound solitude envelops the narrative. The dictator's loneliness stems first from physical decay and illness. He was born with flat feet that ached after walking. Chronic tinnitus made him keep birds in the palace, their songs easing his irritation. His hernia caused unmentionable agony, physical and mental torment when touching the bulge. After executing old comrades, no one remained to sing familiar songs with him. He slaughtered officials, then randomly appointed replacements. At cabinet meetings, new ministers sat in dead silence, awaiting his word, an awkward void. The dictator's hidden humanity. Only his double, Patricio, understood, mimicking him completely. Patricio told him, "I know your loneliness. I alone feel your pain. Step down, and hordes will demand blood for your debts." Dying from poison, Patricio urged, "After me, die too, or face utter solitude." But power held him. He washed the double's body, dressed it in his uniform, treating it as his own corpse. He knew he'd become the loneliest soul on earth thenceforth. Ultimately, loneliness stemmed from lovelessness. Countless concubines, yet incapable of true love. Except for one woman, Manuela. For her, he humbled himself, enduring street glares and her mother's distrust, knowing force would kill love's chance. To impress her, he cleared her neighborhood overnight, evicting residents, killing dogs before her birthday. He rebuilt buildings in U.S. Marine style, hoping power would seduce her. But she only said, "Your Excellency, please don't crowd me. My mom is here." Eventually, the president still seized Manuela. He held a grand ceremony crowning her queen, yet still failed to win her affection. He planned to give Manuela another priceless gift. At 4 p.m. that day, he took Manuela to witness a total solar eclipse. Stars appeared, flowers closed, livestock panicked. But Manuela first ignored it, then vanished completely. The president couldn't find her. The book writes, he had never known such profound sorrow. In that vast, desolate house, he felt like the loneliest person on earth. By the novel's end, this president lived past 200, an existence worse than death. His room held 11 pairs of glasses. When vision failed, he'd try them one by one. Ashamed of his age, he avoided people, quit cockfighting, and abandoned dominoes. He minimized maids, unable to bear witnesses to his hernia and incontinence. 12 bodyguards surrounded him, but he felt monitored, not protected. Once, he sneezed 9 times consecutively, leaving himself teary-eyed. He walked streets lined with slogans. "Salute the president. Loyalty to the president." Yet no one glanced at the flesh-and-blood president. Marquez portrays this to explore a dictator's inner world. Dictators seek peace through power, yet dwell in lifelong terror. Fateful desolation. Fear drives them to kill all threats, leaving themselves to die alone in gilded palaces. This exploration of life and solitude is Marquez's greatest theme. Stylistically, in The Autumn of the Patriarch, Marquez perfected magical realism. Let's first examine what magical realism truly is. Marquez's 1982 Nobel citation states, "He immerses us in a singular world where incredible myths blend with pure reality." Magical realism's definitive interpretation. Specifically, magical realism blends reality and fantasy to depict bizarre, dreamlike realities. In this reality, life and death blur, humans and ghosts mingle, illusions merge with truth, myths coexist with facts, utterly bewildering. This magic ultimately exposes truth by exaggerating, distorting, or recombining reality to surreal extremes. Rooted in Latin America, it's popularly understood in China as modern form perfectly fused with ethnic essence. For example, Mo Yan, 2013 Nobel Literature Laureate, writes in this magical tradition too. Since 100 Years of Solitude, Marquez mastered absurd plots to craft surreal atmospheres and amplify character traits like the century-old matriarch or blood from a murder victim flowing to relatives' doorsteps. The Autumn of the Patriarch continues this. A president living 200 plus years, cows roaming post-death, skeletal birds in cages, his mother dyeing feathers, all conjure an enchanted realm. Though legends, these magical episodes vividly expose the dictator's omnipotence. He could command trees to fruit, livestock to birth, rains to cease, or droughts to break. During hurricanes, he ordered subordinates tied to posts, forbidden to move. He'd brandish his saber, firing warning shots skyward. Once decreed 3 a.m. become 8 a.m., escaping darkness while making roses bloom early. His cows bore hereditary president brands at birth. To review all regions in one festival, he staggered celebrations nationwide. The novel uses endless sentences to weave stream of consciousness, scrambling chronology until era becomes unknowable. But through depictions of British or American troops and Vatican envoys, we can infer the dictator's rule spanned the entire 19th to mid-20th century. The Autumn of the Patriarch reveals not just tyranny's brutality and absurdity, but also Marquez's meditation on life. He believed most people desire longer lives with more wealth and power. Yet limitless time and power don't guarantee life's fulfillment, like the president's unchecked power and 200 plus years which filled his existence with ugliness, loneliness, and emptiness, inevitably leading to downfall. For all must face time's limits. No power escapes death and solitude. The more we fear them, the closer they loom. All right, that concludes our interpretation of the Autumn of the Patriarch. Reading notes are below the audio. See you tomorrow.